we have a simple lawsuit in Washington that has everyone terrified. A former employee of AIPAC, who was the director of the RAND Corporation, if you know who they are, who sat on the National Security Council, Steve Rosen. Steve Rosen is suing AIPAC because they fired him because he was convicted of spying for Israel. Now, Rosen managed, and here's what Rosen's contention is, mind you. How can you fire me for spying against the U.S. when AIPAC doesn't do anything but spy against the U.S.? That's his defense, $20 million defense, and you know what? Steve Rosen is winning his lawsuit. Now, the other thing that's coming out here with Rosen, and we have reviewed his, prior to being sealed, his multiple divorce depositions of being involved in gay bondage clubs in Washington. And in these gay bondage clubs with him were a number of prominent neocon members of the Senate, National Security Council, and several of the primary advisors around President Bush, particularly the ones who pushed most, let's say, most strongly for the attack on Iraq. The individuals' names might come to mind, and they're in these documents. Now, I've got all these guys here, and this is in heaven forbid, we're a very liberal publication, and we're certainly, very much for gays in the military, but I'm very much against closeted gays in our at the highest levels of our government sending troops to war, and at the same time being the primary advocates of persecution of gays in the United States.
Yeah, that's the hypocrisy that's the nature of the hypocrisy, I suppose.
They call the White House. Now, this is one of my guys here from the DoD, counterterrorism people. He'd interviewed at the White House, and he said, "Gordon, I couldn't work at the White House. It's run by the gay mafia." American Jews were always, and you can't use this term liberal or left or anything, progressive, humanist, people that gave a damn about other people. It's the background. And this new Reagan-era blind greed, run America into the ground through borrowed money, create oligarchies. We don't care if children starve. As long as we get photo opportunities and play these childish games we do. Jews were always too smart for this, and I'm just not seeing it anymore. When did America's Jews, who are our smartest people, become among our dumbest people? This idea of supporting AIPAC, which is a foreign conspiracy, clearly a conspiracy against the United States. AIPAC has one purpose alone, to destroy the United States. They're not doing anything else. There is no more anti-American group on this earth than AIPAC. North Korea loves us in comparison to AIPAC. And, of course, Netanyahu has now finally made this clear to everybody. When are people going to get on board here and decide they're going to start being Americans?
Well, and then we have Biden, who is a sworn Zionist himself. He's admitted that many times. You got Rahm Emanuel, or Rombo as we call him, the chief of Rothschild, chief of staff, as I'll say, whose father was, for lack of a victory for Israel, a terrorist who blew up a hotel. I mean, these are the people that are going to stand up to Israel. These are the people that are going to, fight for American sovereignty.
Jack, the undercurrent here is that the military is now taking a very different view. And I'm usually the guy to stand up and say, the military needs to back down, that this is a civilian government where we have free elections. Well, we all know we really kind of don't have free elections. And that's not even talking about rigged voting machines. Vote for who? Some invisible idiot that's put up, my God.
Skull and Bones Kerry or Skull and Bones Bush. There's your choice, America. War criminal, war spy McCain, or Barry Obama. Which one?
discussing McCain, I think about McCain and Lieberman and what I know about them that I really can't say here. But calling McCain a mobster would be a generous description. A psychotic, malignant narcissist, any of those things. I can't think of any more diseased person than McCain other than Joe Lieberman. But we have an entire government that has this basic look about it. And you don't have to be a Democrat or Republican to pick it up. I mean, everybody loves saying this, but everyone loves going out and pretending every 2 years or every 4 years or every 6 years like there's an election.
Yeah.
You hold one, please.
Well, no, the media will frame the candidates. Anyone who goes against the status quo, i.e. Ron Paul, would be a great example. They simply don't exist. They're the mayor of Crazy Town, and, of course, everything that they predict ends up coming true.
Okay, let me try to get
that would be cause for caution by Americans using the quid pro quo choices put forward by the media in an election. I just had my last guest on. He said, well, the good news is we get an election in November. Oh, do we? Really? Or are we going to see a change come from politics in an election? Because it never happens.
It's not going to be an election. It's going to be another game where they're going to dance a couple of idiots out in front of us that have been nominated by an oligarchy, a kleptocracy.
Back to an earlier comment you made, though, people speculate on who's running things, and you're saying like what influence the intelligence agencies have on our news, media, and governments. I would argue that the first intelligence agencies were secret societies, and so you said some people speculate on the Masons and the Illuminati, but if you go back to the founding of MI5, the founding of the CIA, using Skull and Bones guys. It all goes back to these secret societies, does it not?
Well, and when you're talking Illuminati, you'd be describing the Jesuits. And I had a call from the Vatican last week, and we spent hours discussing exactly that, and an invitation to visit His Holiness, which I was surprised at because I'm like a serious non-believer in anything. One of the things I'm looking at here, which follows your premise, is that the struggle in the West is expressed somehow as the fight to protect Zionism. Really, if you go underneath everything, and you characterize Nazi Germany as what it was, Nazi Germany was a society that had two basic belief systems. It had a subtext of Zionism, to some extent financially and otherwise, but it was a powerfully Roman Catholic society, and everything in the West falls under that same dictum of the traditions of the secret societies tied to Catholicism or reactions to Catholicism.
Well, what embraces both Zionism and Catholicism? British Israel Freemasonry.
Duff, I've read some of your stuff here, some of your quotes. First of all, I would like to ask you that how authentic is the WikiLeaks and all the stuff that they have put on their website?
As far as I'm able to tell, and I have sources in every department and intelligence agency in the U.S. and most of the West, there isn't a single thing in WikiLeaks that's genuinely authentic. It's carefully selected chicken feed, and as we learned from former national security analyst for the Carter administration, Zbigniew Brzezinski, he said that WikiLeaks is, and these are the quotes, created by an intelligence agency. He doesn't say which one. I believe it's Israel. Mm-hmm. He says that the output is seeded, meaning that it's planted with specific material, and he calls this material pointed. How do you feel about that?
You say that many of the documents are edited or audited. How can you say that?
On our staff, we have former intelligence officers from the U.S. Army who had served in Iraq. Some of them had produced hundreds of these documents. They immediately went online, downloaded the documents that they themselves had written, found them to be significantly altered, edited to the point where it would have taken a large number of people hundreds and hundreds of hours to change the documents, and they were all changed.
There isn't much of contents in the WikiLeaks that would damage India or Israel. What do you say to that?
Well, that's the reason so many of us, it's not that they have been edited to eliminate content over India and Israel. Let me do one aside with you. Only about 2 months ago, our General Petraeus, our commander in Afghanistan, went to Admiral Mullen, chairman of our Joint Chiefs of Staff, with a presentation, 22 slides, outlining how his intelligence in Afghanistan had taught him that the actions of Israel were endangering the United States and putting our troops in harm's way. Mm-hmm. Vice President Biden carried this message to Prime Minister Netanyahu. The intelligence, and it would have had to have been substantial, that had brought about this presentation and this very controversial policy, not one piece of this ever entered WikiLeaks.
What are the sources of WikiLeaks?
As far as we have been able to tell, based on the fact initially the claim was made that a young homosexual lover of Assange's, a Bradley Manning, a young soldier, had produced all of this material and it had been stored for months.
So you're saying that there is a young gay or a homosexual lover of Assange's who is actually the source to give him all these cables or the information?
Well, that's what was said. We don't believe any of this. When Brzezinski and others were asked about whether they believed this material had been stored, they had said no. Currently in Washington, we have a lawsuit within the Israeli lobby of AIPAC. Steve Rosen, former head of the RAND Corporation, member of the National Security Council, an Israeli-American who is indicted for spying, is suing the Israeli lobby for defamation. Within the lawsuit, Rosen has claimed that AIPAC is running a large spy organization through every level of the U.S. We have informants with the National Security Council who have indicated to us that's true. It's in my article that was published today. That would make the source of WikiLeaks, and this is what the information is tracking down to. WikiLeaks is the printed material that comes from the spying that Israel does within the United States through its lobbying organization, AIPAC.
Although these informations are old, a few years or few months, why do you think that it has come out now? Why has the WikiLeaks decided to leak these cables now? What's the purpose behind the timing?
Well, the general goal has been several-fold. I had my own ideas about Iraq and why things were being done. I interviewed an informant in the White House several days ago, and they had said that the basic target of all of this has been to bring down Iran. And in order to bring down Iran, because of the geography, because of the logistical needs, it would be necessary to destabilize and destroy the government of Pakistan. And that WikiLeaks is aimed primarily at destroying Iran, Pakistan, and discrediting the United States, and eventually destroying the United States as well.
Okay, so much stuff about Pakistan. Do you think that WikiLeaks is a great fan of Pakistan?
There is no greater enemy to Pakistan than WikiLeaks. Everything in there is designed to harm relationship between Pakistan and its neighbors, to destabilize Pakistan, and to cover existing operations, intelligence operations against Pakistan by both India and Israel.
Do you think that India could be involved with the WikiLeaks to create instability in Pakistan? The RAW, the raw Indian intelligence.
I believe that the RAW is a junior partner in the operation with the Israelis, And although they are benefiting from the help they're getting from the Mossad, anyone who joins into a partnership with the Mossad is soon sold down the river. I believe the Mumbai attacks were orchestrated out of both Washington and Tel Aviv, and that India suffered greatly there, and India has more suffering to do at the hands of their new very good friends.